fighting against illegal drugs, corruption, and criminality. Moreover, he pursued programs that put the dignity and welfare of the Filipino people first, such as right to access better health services. To name a few, these, among many other things, were the outputs of the Office of the President, accomplishments that were greatly enabled and empowered by the budget that Congress has allocated for this respectable office. I have been there in the Office of the President, and I have seen firsthand the commitment and dedication of the men and women of this institution. I therefore have no doubt that President Duterte's office is using its budget solely for the benefit of the Filipino people. Let me therefore present to you the proposed 2020 budget of the Office of the President. For fiscal 2020, the total new appropriations of the Office of the President is 8,201,318,000 pesos. Rest assured, I will safeguard the interests of the public by ensuring proper checks and balances. Every centavo must be wisely spent to help and support the Filipino nation. It is the people's money, and it is just right that the government should give it back to them. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, no member wishes to interpolate the budget of the Office of the President. We give them always the due courtesy that they deserve. I just want to mention that the good work of our dear Executive Secretary, Salvador Bingbong Medialdea. Mr. President?
Are you sure? Earlier, Senator Lacson and I was informed by Senator Lito Lapid that he wants to interpolate. What happened, Senator Lacson?
Since he's in the bathroom, Mr.
Oh, so
President,
he
he waived
changed
his right to interpolate.
He changed his mind.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that, I move that the budget of the Office of the President's offices, be deemed submitted and approved. And approved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The budget of the Office of the President is hereby deemed submitted.
May I ask for a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President?
Before we suspend, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is a former member of the Senate, Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano. You should not be sitting there. You can sit inside because you're, by tradition, you are a former senator, just in case you prefer to. All right, and I'd like to welcome all the other members of the House of Representatives and the Executive Secretary, Bingbong Medialdea. Session suspended. Pwede siya umupo dyan.
don't we?
Ano? Ha? Sure, sure. No problem.
Sabi mo kay Paul Mominal, text mo din sa akin yung sinabi mo tungkol sa LTO, na PRO sa Cebu, yung text niya tungkol doon na Jotas.
Okay na, DTI bro? Yung sa DTI. Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session resumed.
Mr. President, before we take up other budgets of the budgets of other departments, we'd just like to recognize, put on record, our former colleague and now Speaker of the House of Representatives, former Senator Speaker Alan Cayetano is here with us, as well as members of the House of Representatives, headed by their Majority Leader Martin Romualdez, and several of the members of our colleagues in the House of Representatives are here with us as well.
Welcome to all our guests.
Mr. President, I move that we take up the budget of the Department of Trade and Industry and recognize the sponsor, Senator Sonny Angara.
Any objection? Hearing none, the budget of the DTI and its attached agencies are in order.
May you recognize Senator Angara?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you,
Sonny
Majority
Angara,
Leader. We'd like to greet our Speaker of the House, Speaker Alan, and the House contingent, the sizable House contingent. I don't remember sending out invitations to the BICAM, Your Honor, but we welcome them nonetheless. Mr. President, the recommended budget for the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, is 9,456,589,000, Mr. President.
Mr. President, no
Majority Leader.
member. Yes, Mr. President. Because of the able leadership of our dear Secretary Mon Lopez, he's one of the best performing members of the cabinet, best performing department. A lot of weight on his shoulders, trying to push for increased MSMEs, and he's doing a great job with the micro, small, and medium enterprises program. Mr. President, no member wishes to interpolate the budget. I move that the budget of the Department of Trade and Industry be deemed submitted and approved. Congratulations to the men and women. Mr.
Any
President, so
objection?
moved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader, who used to chair the Committee on Trade.
Hearing none, the Department of Trade and Industry's budget, including its attached agencies,
agencies, Mr.
are
President.
hereby submitted.
May
Deemed
we ask for a
submitted.
1-minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended. Huh?
Siya na yung babasahin ko dito. Dapat idagdag nyo dito si POC. POC, nandito rin si POC Congressman. Malapit alam mo.
Frank, I'll just do some housekeeping really quick. I'll just do some housekeeping. Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session resumed.
Yes, Mr. President, just to reiterate, the budgets that we deemed submitted earlier were the Department of Trade and Industry, the Office of the Secretary, Board of Investments, Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, Cooperative Development Authority, Design Center of the Philippines, Philippine Trade Training Center, as well as the Center for International Trade, Expositions and Missions, and Small Business Corporations.
All incorporated under the Department
That
of Trade and
omnibus
Industry.
motion, Mr. President.
All right. We place that on record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we, Tito Frank, are you okay? Mr. President, may I move that we take up the budget of the Philippine Sports Commission.
Any objection? Hearing none, the budget of the Philippine Sports Commissions is in order.
May we recognize the sponsor, Senator Bongo, for his opening statement, Mr. President.
Senator Christopher Bongo is recognized.
A good day to everyone, Mr. President. I am a strong supporter and believer in sports. Investing in sports will not only help us in keeping our youth away from illegal drugs and other harmful vices, it will also enable us to develop world-class athletes who can bring pride, honor, and medals to our country. We can only do this by having a strong sports development program that is implemented by a likewise strong PSC. But more than this, the PSC must also have the budgetary means so they can, in turn, pursue programs and activities that would help our athletes. The 2020 PSC budget reflects this goal. As its sponsors, I have examined and scrutinized their budget proposal. I also made sure that the PSC will not only use its funds for 2020 correctly, but they will also follow through their stated goals and objectives. Unang-una, ang 2020 budget po ng PSC ang pinag-uusapan sa plenaryo. Hindi budget ng PSC noong 2019 at hindi ang mga isyong kinabibilangan ng FISGOC. Pangalawa, hindi po ako kasama sa nag-approve ng 2019 budget ng PSC sa nakaraang kongreso noong 2018 dahil hindi pa po ako senador noon. Pangatlo, hindi po ako ang spokesperson, opisyal o miyembro ng nasabing ahensya at organisasyon. Bagamat pamilyar po sa akin ang mga ito bilang dating miyembro ng gabinete at special assistant to the president, hindi ko po masasagot ang lahat ng inyong mga katanungan. As a sponsor of the PSC's budget for 2020, beyond my control na po kung paano dinidisburse ang budget nila for 2019. My focus and responsibility is only related to their 2020 budget and I will defend it as its sponsor. Also, if you don't want to approve the PSC's budget for 2020, then don't. I also do not have much knowledge on the operations of the BCDA and the FISGOC. Dahil tulad ng sabi ko, hindi po ako opisyal o miyembro noon. Kung may katanungan siya maliban dito, mas mabuti siguro na itanong niya na lang diretsyo sa kanila yon. Kaya kung may alam kayong mga nangyayaring katiwalian o may agam-agam kayo at konting duda, ipaalam nyo para maimbestigahan natin. Hapon po ay naghain ng motion na papuntahin ang FISGOC sa hearing ngayong araw. Nais ko din pong marinig ang mga sagot sa mga mahalagang katanungan sa kanila. Gaya ng parati kong sinasabi, hindi ako papayag na may masasayang na pera ng publiko up to the last centavo. I will spare no one, kaibigan man o kaaway, kapartido man o kasamahan sa gobyerno, PSC man, BCDA, o FISGOC, I don't care. I have a sworn duty to protect the people. At kung mayroon man pong katiwalian sa ating mga sports bodies, ako po mismo bilang chair ng Senate Committee on Sports ang mangunguna sa pag-imbestiga nito. Again, willing ako mag-imbestiga kung may mga reklamo. Our anti-corruption campaign is stronger than ever before. I will do everything in my power to ensure that remains true, especially now that I am here in the Senate. I am even willing to take any matter to the President para talagang maimbestigahan. So, I not only understand, but I also share the sentiments of Senator Drilon. One of the biggest responsibilities as members of Congress is to safeguard public funds. Pera ng bayan ang nakataya dito, so it should be protected. So let us work together para bantayan ang pondo ng mamamayan at siguraduhin napupunta talaga ito sa tama at nabibigay ito sa ating mga atleta. Mr. President and my fellow colleagues, ilang days na lang, ilang araw na lang, opening na ng SEA Games sa November 30. Sana matapos na at mapagpasyahan na natin ang mga isyong ito para naman po makapag-focus na tayo sa SEA Games. Kailangan nating magkaisa para sa ikakatagumpay ng ating mga atleta. Go for gold tayo para sa bayan at para sa Pilipino. Mr. President, again, allow me to manifest that I am willing to answer all questions relating to the Philippine Sports Commission budget for 2020, being its sponsor. But if my colleagues in this chamber insist on asking questions beyond the scope of the PSC budget, then I think it would be more prudent to hear answers straight from the horse's mouth. I too want to get to the bottom of things based on the rules and in order not to prolong the discussions here at the expense of the budgets of the PSC and other agencies scheduled today. We can either refer this to another venue or committee and conduct a Senate inquiry so that all issues about the propriety and legality of the FISGOC's organizing of the SEA Games can be answered. Kung may mali, let us put it in record at imbestigahan natin pagkatapos. Or we can simply suspend our rules and let them answer here and now. Mr. President, the FISGOC as the organizing committee is in a better position to give accurate information regarding its involvement in the preparation for the games. FISGOC is here represented by no less than its chairperson, the Honorable Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, its Chief Operating Officer Ramon Susara, and its other officials, including POC President Congressman Bambol Tolentino, and the House leadership. I believe that they are ready and willing to shed light on these pressing matters. They have voluntarily appeared here to put an end to this issue. Please allow me to take this opportunity to remind my colleagues that we are 2 weeks away from the formal opening of the SEA Games, with the polo competitions happening as early as this Sunday. This should be the time for us leaders of this country to unite with our fellow Filipinos and rally behind our athletes. While we are here debating, we have athletes, trainers, game organizers, and thousands of volunteers sacrificing their time to bring glory to the Philippines. They are doing this for the country. There is right time for everything, but if we insist that these questions pertaining to the organizing of the 2019 SEA Games has to be answered now for the benefit of the public, then I humbly ask the Committee on Rules, with the indulgence of this body, to move to suspend the rules to allow FISGOC to directly answer all questions addressed to them. I wish to manifest this because I believe that the public deserves to know the truth. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Sir Dilido, yes.
we just like to also put on record that the triumvirate of Philippine sports is here. We have, of course, the head of the POC, no other than Congressman Bambol Tolentino, the younger brother of Tol Tolentino. Younger, but older. Younger brother. We have also Chairman Butch Ramirez of the PSC and the head of the FISGOC who's running the SEA Games, no other than our former colleague and speaker, Alan Cayetano. Mr. President, to interpolate the budget, may we recognize the distinguished minority floor leader from Iloilo, Senator Franklin M. Drilon.
Minority Leader Senator Frank Drilon is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman sponsor yield the floor to some questions which we would like to raise in this period of interpolation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. To start with, let me place on record our full support to our national athletes who will be competing in the Southeast Asian Games, which will start in 2 weeks' time. Now, we will finish the interpellation today. We assure the public that we will not stand in the way of the full focus on the hosting by the country of the Southeast Asian Games. The national pride is at stake, and therefore we assure the good sponsor that by the end of the day, the budget will be submitted for approval by this chamber. Having said that, I think it is our duty to ask the necessary questions pursuant to our mandate under the Constitution, to scrutinize the budget and check if the objectives under which the budget was proposed is being, or was approved, is being fulfilled. Our questions, Mr. President, on this budget were triggered by various news reports on the controversies surrounding the hosting of the Southeast Asian Games. No less than President Duterte initially objected to FISGOC's hosting of the Southeast Asian Games. He aired his objection despite the issuance of Memorandum Circular 56, quote, directing all government agencies, including GOCCs, and encouraging LGUs to extend their support to FISGOC in the preparation, organization, and holding of the 30th Southeast Asian Games. This circular, number 56, was signed by Executive Secretary Mijaldea on January 25, 2019. In fact, in an interview with the Daily Tribune on 13 July 2019, the President it was reported as follows. First, quote, first, it should be the government, close quote. Duterte reiterated he referred to the PSC, which has control over the release of the budget for sports. It also determines if purchases related to the event are within bounds of government control and limitations. The President further said, quote, government is the most interested in winning medals. That FISCOG Foundation only muddles up the issue. So many fingers are dipping into the hosting. It should only be government. I want just one, just the government. End of quote, the President said. The President continued, this is how it should be. I will execute whoever will be responsible if we do not win medals. That chandelier should be strong enough to hold the bodies of the PSC chairman and his commissioners if they don't deliver. The President said in jest. Let me, however, place of record that the spokesperson of the President has emphasized that the concerns on corruption does not involve Speaker Cayetano. Definitely, to quote the presidential spokesman, definitely not Cayetano. He just entered recently. Kaya pinapasok because of the allegations. So, Mr. Chairman, the first question. Yes, Mr. Cayetano, Speaker Cayetano, who has honored us with his presence today, he's not involved in any corruption. The President himself said. If Speaker Cayetano is not involved in corruption, who does the chairman think the President is referring to?
Mr. President, knowing the President of the Philippines, alam nyo, merong mga tao na allergic siya.
Can we speak louder, sir?
Allergic. Meron po mga taong allergic siya. Ay, mahirap ng pangalanan dito. So, ito lang po masasabi ko. May tiwala siya kay Speaker Cayetano. Kaya, pinirmahan ni Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea itong memorandum circular directing all government agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned or controlled corporations, and encouraging local government units to extend their support to the Philippine Sea Games Organizing Committee in the preparation, organization, and holding of the 30th Southeast Asian Games. Ang tinutukoy po ni Presidente Duterte nung panahon na yon sa interview sa Tribune, and I was not there mismo no, sa interview. Alam nyo, during the past handling of the sports, is POC, may mga tao po na medyo allergic siya. At baka akala niya ito yung mga taong nagdadala. So, nung nalaman po ni Pangulong Duterte na si Speaker Alan ang nagdala, yung FISGOC, and with Congressman Bumble, I think during the time, nag-election pa? Tapos na ba election? Chairman pa lang siya ng isang member ng sports organization. So, ang ibig sabihin ni Presidente dito, yung yung mga presidente ng organization, kung sila po yung magdadala, ayaw niya. Pero nung nalaman niya na si Speaker Alan ang magdadala, so no doubt, no question po siya sa integrity ng ating speaker. So, andito yung dokumentong pinirmahan po ni Secretary Medialdea. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Yes, thank you for that answer, although to be candid, I have not heard a direct answer to the question I raised. It was the President himself who said that he had full confidence in the integrity of Speaker Cayetano. But he did make a public statement that the FISGOC Foundation only muddles the issue, so many fingers are dipping into the hosting, and the presidential spokesman clarified that the concerns on corruption does not involve Speaker Cayetano. That is why I think it is a legitimate question to ask. If Speaker Cayetano, and we believe in the integrity of Speaker Cayetano, and it was very clear that he is not involved in any corruption. So we still would have to understand who the President was referring to, because the statement on corruption was issued after Memorandum Circular 56 was issued. The statement was, as we said, was made after the Circular 56. The Circular number 56 was issued by authority of the President on January 25, 2019. But the President's statement on corruption came after the issuance of Memorandum Circular on July 16, 2019. So it is a legitimate question to ask. After the President said that required full support and assistance to FISGO, he made the statement that there is corruption not involving Speaker Cayetano. So who would the President have been referring to?
Mr. President, the President was talking about his disdain for corruption in general. But according to Secretary Panelo, there was never a decision to remove FISGO. Now, we're
No, we're
talking...
not talking about removing the FISGO. Secretary Panelo said was that the Speaker was not involved. And we believe him, having worked with the Speaker here when he was in the Senate. So we're just wondering, who are the people that the President had concluded could be dipping their dirty finger into this preparation of our Southeast Asian Games?
Wala naman siyang sinabi. Gusto mong malaman? Sino yon?
Yes, yes, Mr. President. I
Bubulong-
think it's a legitimate question.
Ibubulong ko mamaya sa'yo. Anyway, we're talking about 2000...
Your Honor,
Mr. President,
Your Honor,
we're talking about
may I remind you to address the chair instead of talking to the interpellator, please.
sorry,
I
Mr.
don't
President.
think it is a good habit to do so.
Mr. President, we're talking about now the 2019 budget. So, may we request for a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, about what the good senator from Iloilo referring to, he's asking who is the president referring to. So I think the president was referring to the previous leadership of the POC. And yun po yung sinasabi ko na allergic siya. So akala niya yun pa rin ang mamamahala. Now, with the election of POC President Bambol Tolentino and Speaker Quetano at the helm of Fisgo, so may tiwala po with all trust and confidence po yung full trust and confidence yung binibigay ni Presidente Duterte sa new leadership.
That is not, there is no question about that. That the President indeed has full confidence in the present leadership of Speaker Cayetano. We join the President in that assessment. But the gentleman sponsor, Mr. President, mentioned that the President, quote, was referring to previous leadership in the POC, close quote, insofar as allegations of corruption.
Let me clarify, not the most recent, not Mr. Vargas.
Not Mr. Vargas. I'm sorry, yes.
Before, the
Yes.
previous.
I was just reading your statement. So it is the leadership before Mr. Vargas.
Yes.
That's correct.
Nag-resign-
Who is
nag-res-
this, Mr. President?
Nag-resign nga yun si Vargas due to
Yes, it is not
Pressure.
Mr. Vargas. And so, who is the previous leadership in the POC that the President referred to be involved or implied clearly to have been involved in corruption?
sasagutin ko yan pag natanong ko si President Duterte mamaya. Sabihin ko. Tanungin ko siya.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, but the gentleman is sponsoring a budget, and we are here to exercise our supervision and oversight over the budget, and we are exercising our authority to appropriate funds. It is necessary that we inquire into the allegations of corruption as this involves public funds. It was the good sponsor who said that the President was referring to the previous leadership in the POC insofar as suspicion of corruption is concerned, and qualified it further that it did not that the President did not refer to Mr. Ricky Vargas, who also we know and we concur with the President. So if it is not Mr. Ricky Vargas, who was the previous leadership in the POC that the President was referring to insofar as perception of corruption is concerned?
Mr. President, I can answer perhaps in an executive session with the indulgence of this body.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I could not agree with that. I don't think an executive session is necessary. This is the budget hearing, and the public is entitled to know the circumstances under which the budget was enacted.
I cannot read the President's mind at hindi ko naman po pwedeng sabihin dito sa inyo. Di ako sigurado yun ba tinutukoy niya, but he was referring to the previous leadership. But wala, ibig sabihin doon, allergic po siya sa corruption at ayaw niya, tinutukoy niya doon yung previous POC at ayaw niya ibigay doon kung sakasakaling silang magdadala ng Southeast Asian Games. Mr. President.
Are you saying that the President was referring to the leadership or the entire leadership of the POC previous to
Hindi naman
Vargas,
po.
or a certain personality?
Certain personalities lang po, not the entire. Alam niyang magulo yung handling of the POC leadership before.
The leadership previous to Mr. Ricky Vargas is who, Mr. President? Who is the leader of the POC before Mr. Ricky Vargas, referred to by the good sponsor?
Sino? Who's the chairman? Sandali, Mr. President. Mr. President, sandali, tinatanong natin, I'm not so familiar kung sino po yung mga nandyan sa... No chairman but the president, I think. President is Piping Kuangko.
The president of the previous leadership referred to by the good sponsor is the leadership and Piping Kuangko.
Yes,
Yes.
he's the president.
Would the gentleman share with us what he knew, if he does, what he knew of the corruption under Mr. Piping Kuangko insofar as POC is concerned?
It's all in the news that alam naman natin na lahat yon. But I cannot speak in behalf of the president if he is referring to that person, Mr. President.
Yes, you're not speaking for the president. What we're saying is you referred to, insofar as the corruption issue is concerned, it was the leadership of the POC before the leadership of Mr. Ricky Vargas. You're not speaking for the president. We're not asking you, Mr. President, to speak for the president. What we're asking is if the gentleman is aware of what the corruption that took place prior to Mr. Vargas.
Sabi nila, meron daw mga cases sa Sandigan Bayan, yung ombudsman, yung previous leadership, maybe, that triggered, yun po siguro ang dahilan, kaya walang tiwala si Presidente.
There were cases in the ombudsman.
Yan po ang narinig ko, Mr. President.
Um,
Of the previous leadership ng POC.
Prior to Mr. Vargas.
Correct.
So
Mr. President.
there were cases.
Maybe yun po ang dahilan, Mr. President, na walang tiwala ang ating Pangulo. Siguro, kaya nga sabi ko, yung word allergic.
Okay.
Alam niyo, pag si Presidente, pag yung isang tao ay involved sa corruption, allergic siya sa mga ganun. Lalong-lalo na po, it involves government funds, itong pagdadala ng Southeast Asian Games. Bigat, laking funds ang inaprubahan ninyo for 2019. Talagang very careful and prudent si Presidente. At siguraduhin niya na up to the last centavo will be accounted after the games. At ako naman po, now, I'm a senator, I'm chairman of a Senate Committee on Sports, willing to investigate after the games kung may problema po, may mga reklamo pa po.
Alright.
But kung pag-usapan natin yung approval ng 2019, I'm still not a senator then.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
President. Let us leave that topic behind now, and let's go to the next topic. What is the budget of, or what is the appropriation of the Philippine Sports Commission under the 2019 General Appropriations Act?
Sandali 2019.
The present budget, the present General Appropriations Act.
The present General Appropriations Act budget is 5,357,5 billion 357 million and 315,000 pesos. Under 2019 GAA.
Okay. And can the good sponsor, Mr. President, spread into the record how this budget is broken up in terms of salary, MOE, and the capital outlay?
Sa 2019 budget, personal services 62,179 for MOEE 4,248,676,000, and for capital outlay 1,046,460,000.
All right. And for the coming year, 2020, what is the budget assigned to the Philippine Sports Commission?
For 2020, it's 671,964,000.
All right. Is that the same, is that the amount appearing in the President's budget? Is it? The President's
Correct.
budget is much lower.
The NEP is 171,964,000.
All right.
The NEP, the submitted
Yes.
budget.
Is it correct to say that the MOOE for the Philippine Sports Commission in the proposed 2020 budget was increased by the House of Representatives by 500 million?
Correct, Mr. President. There was an increase of 500 million from the National Expenditure Program, the President's budget, to the General Appropriations Bill, which will be used for the preparation, hosting, training, and participation of the 2020 Olympic Games and 10th ASEAN Para Games.
We are saying that when the President submitted his budget to the Congress, the MOE for training, participation in the 2020 Olympic Games was not included.
Hindi pa kasama? Sir Butch, wala pa? Hindi pa kasama?
Or was it not sufficient?
Olympics, kasama na?
Because the 100...
Kasama na po, kasama na raw. Mr. President, kasama na po.
Kung kasama na po, bakit dinagdagan ng 500 milyon?
Hindi. Kasama ba yung Olympics? So, akin na yun. Only the para games, no? Well, di pa rin. Not. 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Bakit hindi nyo sinali yung budget for Olympics?
Ano, boss? Ano nangyari? I wasn't listening.
Budget for next year sa House. From 106, it became
Session resumed.
So, yung inaprubahan na budget from NEP is 171,964. Hindi pa po kasama dito yung 500 million. That's why dinagdagan sa GAB ng 500 million para po ito sa Tokyo Olympics at sa Para Games po. So, during the NEP, the entire budget 171 excluded pa rito yung para sa Tokyo Olympics. Kaya dinagdagan ng 500 million from House.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, for that response. In which case, what would be covered by the original 106,885,000 proposed in the National Expenditure Program? What activities and programs are in this budget proposal?
Para po sa day-to-day operations, salaries, dali. So, ito yung 171,964.
Let me point out before the good sponsor responds, Mr. President, that the salary is not included in the 106.885 million because that is covered under a separate item of 65 million. So what programs and activities are covered by the 106,885,000 since it does not include the preparation for the Tokyo Olympics?
1 minute suspension, Mr. President. Hindi ko mahanap yung 106 na
Session
sinasabi mo.
suspended.
Yung 106. Anong tinutukoy niya? Hindi, 106 ang sinasabi niya.
Senator Woods.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
You're referring to the 106,885 part of MOOE. 66,403 will go to the Amateur Sports Development Program, while the 40,482 will go to the General Administration and Support of Philippine Sports Hall of Fame enshrinement and the General Administration and Support. Yun po yung the breakdown of 106,885.
All right, now, how was the 500 million additional budget arrived at? Why is it 500?
300
Not 1 billion,
million for the para games and 50 million for the Olympics.
How much?
50 million for the Tokyo Olympics.
50 million?
300 million for the para ASEAN Games. And the 150 for... Ito yung sa dinagdag ng house.
Kaya nga po, dun sa dinagdag ng House, ibig po natin malaman kung para saan po ito.
So for the 220 Olympics, 50 million. For the
That's correct.
10th ASEAN Para Games, 450 million.
Originally, the gentleman cited 300 million. Now is it 450 million?
Mr. President,
Just to clarify.
ang binulong ng PSC kanina, 300. Ito, nandito.
Person natin.
Mr. President, sumasang-ayon na ako dahil nakasulat na rito. 10th Asian Para Games, 450 million. 50 million for the Olympics.
Yes.
Hindi nag-aaral tong nasa tabi ko na chairman ng PSC. Hindi niya pinag-aralan ano yung dinagdag ng House. So, Mr. President, I will ask the chairman of PSC to study all the
Yes.
figures na approve. Kung sakaling aprobahan dito. If not, sa BICAM, papabawasan ko yan.
Ano ang rekomendasyon po ng komite tungkol dito sa dinagdag na 500 milyon sa budget ng PSC? As the gentleman sponsor is the one handling the budget, and the original president's budget only proposed 171,964, nagiging 971,964 pagdaan po sa Kamara de Representante. May we know the position of the good sponsor on this additional 500 million?
Mr. President,
Or would you want the chairman of the PSC to justify this, Mr. Chairman?
we support the additional budget ng 500 million since kailangan talaga to sa 2020 Olympics. And we are still open for amendments, Mr. President.
Amendments meaning to remove this or to add to this or to maintain it?
Pwedeng decrease kung sa tingin ninyong
Hindi po, kayo ang chairman po, kaya tinatanong namin ang inyong
as
opinion.
chairman, we support the additional 500 million from NEP to GOV.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a breakdown of what the 450 million for the para games to be held?
The breakdown follows: IT and telecommunications, 50 million; game services, 50 million 400; accreditation, 14 million.
Could you do it slowly, sir? We cannot catch up.
We will submit it to you, Mr. President. We will submit it to Senator Gordon. Anyway, I will read it. IT and telecoms, 50 million; game services, 50 million 400; accreditation, 14 million; ceremonies and cultural events, 50 million; medical and doping control, 10 million; marketing and PR, 14 million; protocol international relations, 8 million 400; sports, 75 million 481; venues, 15 million; human resources, 21 million 550; security, 25 million; athletes village, 78 million; other expenses, 20 million; local organizing committee, 9 million 312 and 500 pesos. Ang grand total of 449, 143 and 500.
We are curious, Mr. President, is there a work and financial plan to cover the 500 million? Because it appears to be detailed.
We will ask the Para Games to submit.
You sorry, sir?
We will ask the organizer to submit the work and financial plan.
The organizer being PSC.
The PSC, Mr.
So the
President.
PSC chair is here. Can we have the work? Do you have a work and financial plan for this?
Sino ang magdadala? Ang PSC ang nag-fund. So who will...
1 minute suspension
1
to
minute
allow
suspension.
the
Okay,
good
Session
sponsor.
suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, the organizing committee of the Para Games is the Philippine Paralympics Committee with the funding from the PSC. As to the master plan, I will request this from the PSC and from the Philippine Para Games Olympics Committee.
Mr. President, with all due respect, we were asking for the work and financial plan, which will accompany usually a proposed budget. That is what we were asking for because there is a substantial budget of 500 million being added to the PSC budget. So I think it is proper that we see the work and financial plan for this 500 million proposed additional budget. And we are willing to receive it. If it's a document, we're willing to receive it, Mr. President, just so that we can examine it not in a future at a future time.
Yes, I agree with you, Mr. President. We will ask them to submit and today, and if ever in the future there's any controversy that will arise, as chairman of Committee on Sports, I'm very much willing to investigate. But rest assured, siguraduhin natin yung to the last centavo will be accounted.
Mr. President, we are not asking for an investigation. We are asking for the work and financial
Yes.
plan, which would usually accompany a proposed budget proposal. And the budget proposal is 500 million. I think it is legitimate that we ask for a work and financial plan to cover and justify the additional budget of 500 million.
Correct, Mr. President. I agree with you. We will ask them to submit it today.
So are we to understand that there is no work and financial plan as we talk now, and 500 million was inserted in the budget without a definite plan how this will be spent?
Mr. President, there is, and they submitted to the House of Representatives, and we will ask them to submit it also to us, the committee, and furnish the good senator from Iloilo.
Yes, so when can we have this, Mr. President?
Today, Mr. President.
All right. Now, let's now go. Mr. President, it's already 12:23. Before we go to the next issue, may it be proper that we have a break and come back at whatever time the President may wish to come back, so that there will be no break in the train of thought that we have.
Ask for 1 minute suspension.
Session suspended.
What? I am a senator who has a privilege to. Kung gusto niyo, wala. Huh?
Ready to issue, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President,
What is the pleasure of the body?
yes, Mr. President, after consultation with our members, that we should break for half an hour and resume at, I'd say, 1:05.
All right.
Mr. President. Kasi 12:33 na eh. Hindi na half hour yun kung 1 o'clock. So,
Hearing no objection,
Yes, Mr.
the
President.
session is suspended until 1:05 p.m. this afternoon.
thank you, Mr. President. 1:05? Exactly.